Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, where we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And in today's episode, the topic is, are the Clippers finally beginning to dominate? So that's the topic I want to get into in today's video. But before we get into that, I want you guys to please make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Also, be on the lookout for our Dreamerspro premium community, and be on the lookout for Dreamerspro.com. I'm just dealing with a little bit of a cold here. Anyway, let me get into the topic here. So, first of all, last season, we knew one thing about the Clippers. They were good, but they were very inconsistent. That was one of the issues that plagued this team, right? They had all the talent in the world, but for whatever reason, they couldn't seem to put it together. And we knew that going into this season, the team needed to make some significant changes. First of all, after blowing that 3-1 lead last year in the playoffs, we knew that if they continued to do what they did last year, not supporting each other, not having great team chemistry, not being able to make adjustments in the playoffs, all of these different things, players not being in the right state of mind, it wasn't going to be a good season. They were going to have another letdown. They would be one of those teams that had all of the pieces to win a title, but never really actually be able to break through. So one of the things that I've noticed this year about this team is that they're playing a lot of games together. Thus far, the Clippers have played, I think, roughly 15 games. They have 11 wins and 4 losses, so that's 15, if my math is correct. But last season, although they played, they had a 70-game calendar last year, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of those games, the Clippers did not play together. By All-Star Weekend, I remember when Kawhi Leonard won the All-Star MVP award, and he was speaking to Shaq and these guys on TNT, and they asked him, they were like, hey, listen, man, how many games have you guys played together? And he was like, we've played no more than 10 or 15 or something like that. And the crew was just astonished. He was like, how can a team at this point in the season not have played enough, up to at least 30 games together at that point? And a lot of that had to do with injuries, right? Paul George missed the first 11 games of the season because of a shoulder surgery that he had. Kawhi Leonard has some work done on him, and he was load managing last year. This year, however, things are completely different. Kawhi Leonard is finally playing back-to-backs. The last time we saw him do something like this was in 2017. You're talking about three good years ago. But this season, Kawhi Leonard is playing back-to-backs, and I think he heard a lot of the chatter that went on around the league saying that this guy doesn't, he likes to take nights off. He practices in load management. It did not have a good connotation to it. Load management was not a positive, and it was something that hurt him in the past, right? Missing games during the regular season, he would have great numbers, but it would cause him to miss out on a lot of regular season MVP awards because you can have the best numbers you want. You can have a good record, but if another guy is doing things similarly but is playing more games, people are going to give that guy the nod over you. And it's right. It's justifiable. The guy did more work than you in a regular season, so why would we reward you over him? But this season, however, Kawhi Leonard is playing all his games. I think he missed 2 games this season, and I think that was due to the cut that he had on the bottom of his lip, or on the bottom of his mouth, that he got in a game playing with his teammate, Serge Ibaka. It caused him to miss some games, but that was because he had to, number one, get his stitches, and number two, give him some time to get the mask actually fitted for his face. So, but since then, Kawhi Leonard has played every single game on the calendar. And to me, I think it sends a good signal. And number one, it shows the league that this team has a completely different focus. Secondly, their defense is at an all-time high. Right? Their chemistry is at an all-time high. Last season, there was too much of, players just being all about themselves, including Kawhi Leonard, including him. I watched a lot of their games last season. When his teammates would do well on the court, Kawhi Leonard wouldn't chair. He would just be there. Once in a while, he'd clap his hands, but people just seemed to be going about their own business. He seemed to be a little bit indifferent, which was something I didn't like. Some people said, hey, listen, that's part of his personality, but you can't be like that in a team sport or in any kind of a team activity, whether you're working in a company or you're playing a sport. If you're working with others and you guys are on the same team and you're trying to achieve the same goal, you need to be able to celebrate your teammates when they do well, right? Because again, when you celebrate them when they do well, when it's time to get on them to criticize them when they do something wrong, they're not going to take it personal because they know that when you do things right, you're going to celebrate them. So when you do things wrong, no one is going to get upset with you. But if you never compliment me when I do things right, and you're only there to point out my errors or my faults, then it's going to rub people the wrong way. This year, The team has been a lot more together. You see guys cheering for each other, giving each other high fives, really being there for each other, and that's deliberate, and I think is playing a big role in their, in the team chemistry being at an all-time high. You can see that on the court. Guys are meshing very well together. Turnovers are down. The only time I see this team get into trouble when we're talking about turnovers being turnover prone is in that pick and roll. For some reason, they haven't mastered that pick and roll yet, trying to get the ball to Zubac or Serge Ibaka. In the post, in traffic, they always kind of get into trouble. But other than that, guys seem to know where their teammates need to be. Like if you watch their passing and their playmaking and their ball movement, it is impeccable. And it's actually very, very, very fun to watch, given the fact that, yes, they have these two kind of ball dominant stars in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, but the way that they get their offense is in the flow of the game, is with ball movement, and they're getting the best available shot. It's not like when you watch the Nets, when it's like your turn, my turn. There's none of that really going on with the Clippers for the most part. So far this season, they're shooting. They're one of the top shooting three-point teams in the league. If I'm not mistaken, the number one three-point shooting team in the league, and over 70% of their three-pointers are coming as wide open looks. Now that is scary. The fact that a team full of so many good snipers, I told you yesterday, I think it's about 6 players shooting above 40% on this team. At least you have Patrick Beverley, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Luke Kennard, Marcus Morris. So many players on this team that are shooting such a high percentage from the three, and you're giving these guys open looks. It's no wonder that this team is hitting such a high percentage of their threes. If I look at last night's game against the Kings, just last night when they were playing against the Kings, they beat them again. They shot 45% from the three again. They shot 45% from the three. Another thing that I've noticed is their defense, and their defense is starting to get better. I told you going into that game, they were averaging about 108 points per game. That's what they were allowing opponents to score. But for the last few games, they've been holding teams close to that 100 mark. Last night, they held the Kings to under 100 with 96 points. This is the type of defense I want to see them play, because these are the type of differentials that they need to have. They beat them by 19 points last night, but for me, you can beat a team by, 142 to 120, 23 or something like that. It's still 19 points, but that's completely different. In this case, they're holding teams closer to that 100 mark, which is something that I like. And guys, guess what? The Clippers have been on a 6-game winning streak, and guess what else? The Clippers now have, if I'm not mistaken, for sure they have the number 1 record in the Western Conference, although they're tied for losses. They have an identical record with the Los Angeles Lakers, but remember, they beat the Lakers in the first meeting, so that's the reason they have the nod. But guess what? They also have the number 1 record overall in the entire NBA. And for me, guys, listen, this is the sign that this team is beginning to figure it out, and I think one end they got to figure it out is on the defensive end of the ball. Their offense is doing amazing, but their defense, however, must catch up to their offense. And if those things start to meet somewhere in the middle of the road, this team is going to be very, very dangerous come playoff time, because there's a lot of basketball to be played. I like the flow that this team is on. I was watching the game last night, and I was genuinely enjoying to watch the game. It wasn't like a fanboy thing, like, oh my God, Kawhi. No. I was enjoying the game. Even when Kawhi was out of the game and other players were playing, they're playing a beautiful brand of basketball. Paul George is having a bounce back year. He's doing his thing, and these guys seem to be focused. They seem to be on a mission, and they're really beginning to start to dominate their opponents. And I think this is the Clippers we expected, right? But they're being very deliberate about it, and I think it starts with their best player, Kawhi Leonard, and their new head coach, Tyronn Lue, because, listen, this is a different team from last year. I think all of us can say now definitively, looking at this team, at least up until this point, and comparing it to last year's team, this team is serious, and they came out of the gate serious. If you omit the 150-point loss that they had to the Dallas Mavericks, this team has been really special this season, right? They played a lot of great teams, and they've been winning a lot of games, and I'm very proud of these Clippers, and I think they're beginning to dominate, and I think they're just getting started. They just need to continue to improve on the defensive end, keep sharing the ball, keep playing the games together, keep building their team chemistry, and focus on themselves. Don't worry about what the Lakers are doing. Don't worry about what the Nets are doing. Don't worry about what any of these teams are doing. Just focus on yourself. And the Nets have a very big challenge coming up next month, because they're going to be playing the Clippers. Some people say, what do you mean the Nets? You mean the Clippers have it? No. The Nets have a very big challenge coming up next month when they play the Clippers. And I think for me, I think by that time in the next few games, in the next 2 weeks or so, I think they're playing on February 2nd in the next week and a half or so. I think the Clippers, if they keep this up, they're going to be playing with even more momentum come that time of the season. So for me, I think they're beginning to dominate. So what I want to know from you guys is, do you agree? Do you think the Clippers are finally beginning to hit their stride? Or do you think, listen, just a flash in the pan and it's not going to last? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Again, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Once again, this is Charles here from Dreamerspro. Oh, also don't forget to check out the next video that we have coming up. If you enjoyed this one, for sure you're going to enjoy the next one. Once again, this is Charles here from Dreamerspro. Wishing you guys an amazing day. Catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.